one moment, there is the crushing weight of a final, desperate decision in the world of the living. The next, there is only the rhythmic, bone-chilling slap of water against wood. He awakens flat on his back, gasping for air that feels heavy and damp. When he opens his eyes, he isn't greeted by a hospital ceiling or the peace of nothingness. Instead, he is staring up at a sky the color of a fresh bruise, swirling purples and sickly grays choked by a fog that never lifts. He sits up, his hands trembling as they brush against a hard, splintered surface. He is adrift on a tiny, rickety wooden raft, barely large enough to hold his weight. There are no oars, no sails, and no horizon. Around him stretches an endless, oily black ocean that looks thick enough to swallow light itself. The siren's trap. The silence is absolute until a soft, haunting melody begins to drift through the mist. It is a song that pulls at the very center of his chest, vibrating through his bones with a promise of warmth and rest. He crawls to the edge of the raft, peering into the ink-black depths. There, just beneath the surface, a figure appears. She is breathtaking, a woman with long, flowing hair and scales that shimmer with an iridescent, oily sheen. She looks like a mermaid, her face radiating a tragic, ethereal beauty. She gazes up at him with wide, pleading eyes, reaching out a pale hand as if she is a fellow victim drowning in this terrible void. "It's okay now," her voice whispers, a silver thread in the darkness. "The pain ends here. Come down into the warmth." Entranced and broken, he leans further over the edge, his fingers inches from hers. He wants to believe in her kindness. He wants the struggle to be over. But as the distance closes, the water ripples, and the illusion shatters like glass. The face of the abyss. The mermaid isn't a savior. She is a scavenger of the dead. As she nears the surface, her skin turns a translucent, sickly gray. Her beautiful eyes roll back into her head, leaving only hollow, hungry pits. Her mouth unhinges, revealing rows of needle-like teeth designed to tear through spirit and bone alike. This is a dweller of the passage, a nightmare born from the river's hunger that preys specifically on those who have lost the will to live. She lunges. Her webbed fingers, tipped with obsidian claws, hook onto the edge of the raft, tilting it violently. The freezing black water rushes over the wood, soaking his clothes. In a flash of primal terror, he realizes that if he is dragged into that water, he won't just die, he will be consumed until his very essence is erased. He will be nothing. The ivory executioner. Just as the creature's claws rake toward his throat, the suffocating atmosphere is sliced open by a blinding flash of white. A figure descends from the mists above, stepping onto the air as if it was solid ground. She is draped in robes of pure, clinical white that glow like a star against the dark. In her hands, she grips a massive, ornate scythe, its blade shimmering with a cold, celestial light. With a movement so fluid it defies the eye, she swings the weapon. The blade whistles through the air, cleaving the mermaid thing in two. There is no blood, only a hiss of black smoke and a guttural, dying shriek as the monster dissolves into the ink of the river. The woman in white lands on the tiny raft. The wood doesn't even creak under her weight. She stands over him, her expression as unreadable and cold as a marble statue. She is the guide of this realm, and she looks down at him, a man who tried to throw his life away, only to find himself trembling on a rotting piece of wood, terrified of the end. The three grim paths. She speaks, her voice echoing as if it is being projected directly into his mind. She explains that this is the Samdocheon, the final transit for those who left the living world before their time. She gestures to the fog, where three distinct shadows begin to form. The Road of the Sunless, a path of eternal wandering where the soul eventually loses its mind and becomes one of the monsters he just escaped. The Road of the Lonely Island, a place of stagnation, where he can stay forever in a grey, frozen existence, never feeling pain but never truly living again. The Road of the Gate, a perilous journey through the trials of the afterlife that leads to reincarnation, a chance to reclaim a new life. He is left staring at his pale, smoke-like hands. The raft is already beginning to rot, the wood softening under the influence of the black water. The mermaids are still down there, circling in the dark, and the woman in white is waiting for his answer. The end he sought was not an exit, but the beginning of a much more terrifying struggle. The transition into the heart of the river becomes a psychological and physical crucible, where the silence of the void is finally broken by a conversation that shatters the protagonist's understanding of his own death. As the two rafts drift parallel in the suffocating purple fog, the protagonist reaches out, his voice a trembling whisper. Is this hell? Am I being punished? The older man, whose legs are already knotted into the weeping grain of his raft, lets out a hollow, wheezing cackle that sounds like dry bones scraping against wood. Hell? The veteran mocks, his milky white eyes fixed on the horizon. You humans and your need for a judge. This isn't hell, boy. This is the Samdocheon. There are no pitchforks here, only the weight you brought with you. If you feel like you're in hell, it's because you're still carrying the matches you used to burn your life down. The conversation takes a sharper, more desperate turn when the third figure, a young man the protagonist's age, steers his raft closer, his eyes wide with a manic, false hope. Don't listen to him, the boy cries out, pointing toward a shimmering, ethereal glow in the distance. I heard about the White Island. The White Lady lives there. She takes away the pain. She makes it so you don't have to feel anything ever again. It's the only way to find peace. The protagonist looks to the woman in white, his eyes pleading for a confirmation of this sanctuary, but her voice cuts through the mist like a blade of ice. The White Island is the road of complacency, she states, her hand tightening on her silver scythe. It is not peace, it is stagnation. Those who go there become statues in a garden of the forgotten. They do not suffer, but they do not exist. They are the living dead within the dead. The older man sneers at the boy, his jaw twitching as the transformation takes hold. Go on then, kid, he rasps, his teeth beginning to sharpen into needle-like points. Go find your peace. Become a grain of sand on a beach of nobodies. Me, I waited too long. I fed my regrets until they grew teeth, and now they're hungry. The protagonist watches in frozen horror as the veteran's raft begins to liquefy, the black water bubbling up to claim him. In his final moments, the man looks at the protagonist with a flash of genuine, terrifying clarity. Don't look for a way out, he gurgles as the ink-black oil fills his mouth. Look for a way through. If you stop to rest, the river becomes your skin. With a final, wet snap of bone, the man's body collapses into the whirlpool of sludge, his final scream stifled by the rising tide of the abyss. The woman in white immediately swings her scythe, the massive blade whistling through the air to push the rafts apart and prevent the protagonist from being sucked into the man's wake. Pity is a luxury for the living, she commands, her golden eyes locking onto the protagonist's trembling form. That man is gone. Not dead, erased. If you want to avoid his fate, you must stop looking for the White Island and start looking at the gate. The young man of the same age, terrified by the violence of the veteran's death, ignores her warning and paddles frantically toward the shimmering white mist, sobbing about wanting the quiet. The protagonist is left standing on a rotting, softening raft, caught between the lure of an easy, numb oblivion and the terrifying, bone-strewn path of the trials. The chapter ends with the guide's final, haunting ultimatum as they approach the gargantuan bone gate. He chose the dream that never ends. You must choose the reality that hurts. Decide now, before the wood of your heart turns to water.
Like, share and subscribe for part 2. To target for part 1 is 1K like and 100 subscribers. PLZ support me.